But first, he spent the past 50 years covering the highs, lows, and the should've, could've, would've's of the Chicago sports scene. And now, legendary sports writer Bill Jauss is retiring from the Chicago Tribune, and he joins us now to look back on a distinguished career. Bill, congratulations to you.
Thank you, Phil.
You were saying before you came to the studio that this is the first time in 54 years you've been unemployed.
Yeah, my first employer was Dwight Eisenhower because I was reluctantly drafted into the U.S. Army.
Well, that happens. Where did you grow up?
I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago.
And I understand that you were born right across the street from the Monkey House at the Lincoln Park Zoo. Is that right?
That might explain some of the things that have happened. I grew up in the Great Depression. My dad was a meat packer on Fulton Market, and I thought that meat was money because we would buy clothes and food and bail bonds with sausages and hams and bacon.
Really?
It was a barter system going on then.
So with a background, with your dad's background in the meat business, how did you get into sports journalism?
Well, because I like to write and I like sports. And when I was in high school, I started to do some writing and continued in college and just stuck.
You know, I hear that you got some really good advice about interviewing, and this is something that all of us who have occasion to interview people should keep in mind. Give that advice.
Tom Fitzpatrick, Pulitzer Prize winner, once said to me, when the bird starts to chirp, shut up and let him sing. Now listen how many times you hear somebody butt into a good interview just when the subject starts to sing. You got to know when to deal, when to fold, and when to shut up. Well, John Carmichael, my first boss at the Chicago Daily News, he would give me lessons on writing and sports writing. It wasn't about dangling participles or split infinitives. He'd say, always finish 3 takes a copy, 3 pages a copy, then take your first drink. Because too many guys in this business get those 2 numbers mixed up.
They take 3 drinks before they do their first page of coffee. Well, listen, I'll try not to be a Mr. Budinsky tonight when you're chirping. But some of your favorite people in sports, who were they?
Oh, my. Bill Veeck was a charming guy. He was a hustler, but he was fun even when you knew he was picking your pocket. George Halas. My friend Jeff Davis has written a marvelous biography of Halas. And Halas, for example, when our first son was born, he sent the little infant, the newborn baby, a contract predated 22 years. And it was for $10,000, which then was a huge salary for a rookie in the NFL. And I said to him, Coach, how come you're so generous? You know, he had the reputation of throwing quarters around like manhole covers. He smacked his lips and he said, well, I'm allowing a natural inflation.
Your son must have thought it was pretty cool to have a Bears contract waiting for him when he hit 22. Did he ever pursue athletics?
Well, he did pursue athletics. He's now a scout for the Boston Red Sox.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. But he didn't go, gratefully, he didn't go into football.
Well, you almost went into football. Didn't you try out for Northwestern in 1948?
I was a 17-year-old freshman, Phil, and I went out as a walk-on without scholarship on a team that was populated by World War II veterans. They went to the Rose Bowl that year, but they were 25 years old. Many of them were married and had kids. What an education I got as a freshman in college.
People like Alex Sarkeesian, is that?
Absolutely.
Folks like that?
Yeah.
You tell a story about Double Duty Radcliffe.
Yes.
And just a
he
twist during an
died
interview.
this summer at age 103. He was one of the best interviews I ever had because here was a man who was denied an opportunity to play Major League Baseball because baseball was not yet racially integrated. And he played in the minor leagues for the Negro Leagues. He told me one time he played in 4 doubleheaders in 4 different cities in the same day. They would just get in the bus afterwards and drive 50 miles, play another. So hey, this is long after his retirement, and we talked for hours, and he wouldn't express any frustration or anger or malice at all over the lords of baseball who had barred him from doing what he loved doing. I says, come on, level with me. He says, no. He says, I'm not going to be evil myself because some evil was done to me. He said, I had a great life. I had a lot of girlfriends. I visited a lot of places. I've had a good run. And that stuck with me, and I wrote that interview. And you never know in this business what response it's going to have on the readers. That thing got a greater response from readers than almost anything that I ever wrote.
Why do you think that is?
I think that they saw in this man I hope that I was able to convey that he honestly was genuinely pleased with what he had done in his life, and that he didn't hold any anger against the people who denied him. The commissioner of baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, is upheld as a god in some people's eyes. He was a racist. He was part and parcel in keeping blacks out of baseball until Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey broke it in 1946.
You have good memories of the 1963 Loyola Ramblers. Tell us about that.
It was the night in Louisville was the single most memorable event I ever covered, because Loyola, consider this a bit what basketball is today, the megabuck game, and it's on television and all of that. This team only had 9 players because 2 guys flunked out in mid-year. And if you were a healthy male walking down Sheridan Road on the north side, there was a chance you might be hauled into the gym and be scrimmaging with the national champions. And they played against a Cincinnati team that had won the previous 2 years. It was a superb team. There was no shot clock, and the Cincinnati team excelled at the stall. Well, Loyola fell down by 15 points with 10 minutes to go, and they came back and won it in overtime. And then the cool thing about this team is all 5 of them graduated in 4 years. None starred in professional ball. They all were successes in their post-college life. And that's the thing that George Ireland, the coach, he treasured that more than their basketball achievements, is what they did afterwards. It was also, they had a social conscience. They broke the color line this was a time when a lot of coaches said about playing Afro-Americans, I'll play 1 at home, 2 on the road, and 3 if I'm behind on the scoreboard. And Loyola had 4 black players and 1 white guy. He was Jack Egan, who still lives in the city of St. Rita High School guy. And the Mississippi State won the Southeastern Conference Championship, and it had to pull an end run and sneak out of its own state, sneak away from its own state police to go up to Lansing, Michigan to play Loyola in the regional, because there was a Mississippi law against desegregating sports events. It was that kind of a time. When you talk to young people today, they say, oh, I can't believe it. Well, that's the way it was. It was memorable.
Bill, other changes in sports that you see as pretty dramatic over the course
of the 50 years? The biggest change has been the money. I mean, Loyola got $25,000 for winning the national championship in 1963. Last night, Southern Cal and Texas played, and each got $18 million to divide. The salaries, when I started, Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio had just become the first baseball players to get $100,000 a year. Now, the Bears draft a guy. This I don't understand either. You tell me what's wrong with the football union. This union allowed an incoming apprentice, Benson, that Bears drafted in the first round, to get $17 million up front before he punched the clock his first day on the job. Now, if Michael McCaskey is right, and he's very smart about economics, he said there's a finite number of dollars, then a lot of those finite dollars are being taken away from the journeymen who've been getting their ears knocked off in football for years and going to untested apprentices. Speaking of unions and sport, I think that the biggest change has been that Marvin Miller has been the biggest actor in the last 50 years, the guy who went in and was the first commissioner or the first leader of the baseball union, because he's responsible for the salaries escalating like that. Another thing is, big changes, the accessibility of the players in those days. The 1969 Cubs that turned this town on its ear. After the games, they'd go to raised bleachers and they'd meet the bleacher bums who were honking the horns and the bugles before, and they would mingle with the fans.
Nothing like that happens now?
No, the Bears, after a Bears game, they'd walk 4 blocks down the street to a place called the Cottage at Belmont Avenue, and you'd walk in there and you'd see Ed Sprinkle, Bill George, Doug Atkins, and fans and players would mingle. And I never saw any ugly incidents or anybody taking a swing at anybody, and now they go their separate ways.
Bill, what are you going to miss the most?
I'm going to miss the people the most, but I'm not going to miss them because I'm not going to go to the games and sit in the press box and take notes. But the other day, my first day without a job, we went to a Loyola basketball game, and after the game got up like human beings and walked out of the arena. It's going to be fun. And also, I'm going to miss what I treasured most were the people I met, and not just the big shots. The Joe and Jane six-pack, the people in Bernie's across the street from Wrigley Field, and the people at the Billy Goats and at Sewell's and all the places where sports fans get together. Not necessarily the sports bars where they advertise how many TV sets they have, but the people where the fans are. And I'm going to continue to go to those places and talk with them. And I love the fans and the readers. And I've always tried to write for the readers.
Well, Bill, we hope you keep visiting us on Chicago Tonight from time to time. In the meantime, you've been a great friend to Channel 11, and I thank you and I congratulate you.
Thank you very much.